I want to take a look at some of the aftermath of the most recent Herschel Walker scandal, where another woman has come out alleging, like the one before, that he paid for her to get an abortion. And as I say every single time we talk about this story, or the two stories now, I support the right for people to get abortions. He doesn't. He tries to pretend to be the most pro-life person ever, which makes him a massive hypocrite as these stories emerge. But this most recent one that just came out is actually even worse, because adding on to the hypocritical angle, she is alleging that he pressured her. She actually didn't want to get the abortion, and he pressured her, leading to her having to just cut ties with him altogether after that because she was so traumatized. So very low character individual is starting to be the image depicted of Herschel Walker, seems to have been, but more stories bolster that. And I want to look at today his denial of this, and then a few other moments from him in the build up to election night. So here's him going on Fox News and very bizarrely and ineffectively denying this most recent story that just broke.
All right, well, this was Gloria Allred came forward with this client. You're saying you don't know this person?
What I'm saying is this is a lie. And I've said it once, and I've moved on my campaign and moved on, because we're worried about what the Georgia people are talking about. They're talking about this inflation. They're talking about crime. They're talking about men and women's sports. They're talking about this border. And right now, after the terrible showing that Senator Warnock did at the debate, they're desperate right now. And I've said this is a lie. I've moved on, and they want me to play these guessing games and all this, but I'm not. I'm not into that. I'm into winning this great seat, fight for the great people of Georgia, because that's what this is about.
So we're going to watch a little bit more of this interview because it's just fascinating. But before we do, I want to say it's so interesting how he's doing this deeply contradictory style of denial, where just like we saw him do with the first story, one of the big lines he used was, "I've been forgiven for my past, but also this is a lie." And I kept repeating that makes no sense. Why are you bringing up within the context of this conversation that you've been forgiven for the past things you've done if you're denying that this particular past thing happened? Now, I understand you could say, no, those are two separate thoughts, but setting two thoughts next to each other matters within your, trying to convey that point. And so it seems like you're trying to both say simultaneously, listen, if you don't believe that this is all a lie, because it's kind of hard to believe that and understand, all of us probably know this is true, I've been forgiven. And in this interview, he keeps saying, I've moved on, I've moved on. But if you're still somehow believing my BS, I'm going to still say this is all a lie. Very fascinating. So that first story that came out, that was his style. Now he's adjusted a little bit and says, I've moved on, but this isn't true. Well, what have you moved on from then? You didn't move on for anything because this didn't happen because you're denying all of it. Very strange, but watch the rest of some of this.
I hear you. I hear your answer. I'm not going to belabor this, but I'm going to play this soundbite from the press conference today, and then I'm going to ask you a question on the other side.
He has publicly taken the position that he is, quote, about life, unquote, and against abortion under any circumstances, when in fact he pressured me to have an abortion and personally ensured that it occurred by driving me to the clinic and paying for it.
They came forward with letters that they said were signed by you, and a voicemail that they said was your voice calling from the Olympics in 1992. So last thing on this, I talked to a number of voters today. Some of them, these accusations affected them, to be honest. They said they just weren't sure, and they didn't know if another shoe was going to drop. What do you say to those voters?
Well, what I say to those voters is, if you are hesitant about voting for me, think about what Joe Biden and Raphael Warnock has done in less than 2 years.
Okay, interesting. So there it is. A very weak denial there, and a little bit painful to watch. Okay, now let's go through a few other things from campaigns and rally type settings that have happened recently with Herschel Walker while we're on the subject. The first is Lindsey Graham stumping for him. and making an interesting point about all of this.
They're scared to death of Herschel Walker, because if Herschel Walker becomes a Republican, maybe every other young child in America of color might want to be a Republican. That's what they're trying to do. Don't let them get away with it. TeamHerschel.com. I want the biggest night.
Very strange analysis there, thinking that the reason why, I guess, in his eyes, children of color don't grow up to become Republicans is because simply they don't see grown-up people of color who are Republicans. No, they grow up and they learn that the Republican Party isn't advocating on behalf of their interests. That's what happens. Next moment, he makes some very blatant and bizarre accusations against Raphael Warnock and lies about what he stands for.
You believe that? How in the world could a man like him believe in no cash bail? Because I can tell you why. Because I called him a Marxist. And people say, why would you call him that? Because you want to abolish the police. That's a...
We can't forget that the way he conveys his thoughts is so bizarre. Just there, and then I'll continue it. He said, why in the world would he support no cash bail? I'll tell you why, because I called him a Marxist. Wait, he doesn't support no cash bail because you called him a Marxist? Or he does support no cash bail? Strange.
A Marxist, in my opinion. That's what he wanted to do. And then I said, well, why would you call him a Marxist? Because he wanted to abolish the court system. They asked the question in the debate about that, and he wouldn't answer it. Y'all heard him. He wouldn't answer the question. I had to answer it for him. Y'all saw him doing that. He got to the point, I'm answering his question for him, trying to make him look good. And he talking about, so I can tell you right now, I don't think he...
So, do I have to fact check or debunk the thought or the idea, the statement that Raphael Warnock wants to abolish both the police and the court system? No, official Luke Beasley Show fact check. Raphael Warnock, in fact, does not want to abolish the police nor the court system. So weird how you just get to say whatever you want. This clip is particularly quiet. Sorry about that. I'm trying to boost as much as possible. But he says something, an interesting thought about pronouns.
Hey, but we have people in Washington like Senator Warnock and Joe Biden that want to bring pronouns. Pronouns in our military? Are you serious? What is a pronoun? I can tell you this, my pronoun is sick and tired of this.
My pronoun is sick and tired of this, is what he said. So if you missed it because it was really quiet, he said, pronoun, what's a pronoun? They want to bring pronouns in our military. Pronoun, what's a pronoun? My pronoun is sick and tired of this. And it's funny because I think with Herschel Walker, he might be honest about that. Some people might know exactly what they're doing and pretending to be very ignorant about some of these things, but then portraying themselves in some kind of way. Whereas Herschel Walker, when he says, I don't know what a pronoun is or what's a pronoun, maybe he's actually being serious. Because I do hear, especially Herschel Walker, the way he phrases stuff like that, they want to bring pronouns into our military. That's outrageous. Misunderstand that what you're trying to criticize, I'll help you out. What you're trying to criticize is people either volunteering their pronouns at the top of whatever, meetings or something like that, putting it in their email subject line, not subject line, byline or whatever it is, or people having the pronouns that they identify with being used by other people. That's what you're trying to criticize. But all it sounds like you're criticizing is the concept of pronouns, which I promise the military, since the very beginning, has used pronouns. They say he, she, all the time. I can tell you, all the time. But of course, that's probably not what he's trying to say. Very funny. And someone needs to explain to him what a pronoun is, because he's asking. Last little funny thing, The Good Liars, which puts out a lot of hilarious content, posted this. A little flyer that they are jokingly putting around or photoshopping in. Can't tell if that's real or not. It looks photoshopped. Definitely it is. Into Herschel Walker events. And it says, welcome to the Herschel Walker rally. If you are here for Herschel's campaign speech, please form a line on the left. If Herschel got you pregnant and you are here to collect money for an abortion, please form a line to the right. Pretty good. Lots of people. They also were the ones who hilariously walked up on stage at a Herschel Walker event and tried to hand him condoms, because clearly he's not great at being consistent with using those. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all of these stories of him wanting to get abortions. Holy smokes. Wild, wild stuff going on in Herschel Walker's world.